Today I have another endgame Exalted build for you. This is an insane tank build that still does moderate damage. This one is for Moebius. This is a build that you never see anybody play. First try, I was able to solo Ascended Towers, no boons, no deaths, no heals, no banners. I have that video linked in the description. I also tested this out on Exalted. We did this with no Aegis Horn, no serious consume. Two of us had moderate damage, one had slightly more than that. Nobody could instant kill bosses. We still managed to get all keys. I was giving them so many Arcane Furies. I was asking them, and they said they always had Arcane Fury. I kept them alive in the hardest fights, and I asked them at the end if they liked the build, and they said they liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. Now let's get into the build. Don't want to spend too much time talking on that. So we want one of two weapons, the Blade of Conquest or the Sword of Dominance. Now when you're starting off building this build, you don't actually need both of them, but ideally we do want both. The god roll that we want is the Greater Blessing of Luck and Shield Charge off critical hits with the Mark of Agility. As you can see, I do not have the god for the primaries. For the secondary, ideally we want the double on critical hit chance and then weapon technique speed or rampage bonus damage. For the Sword of Dominance, we want the Greater Blessing of Luck and Shield Charge. Same secondary perks are what we are looking for. Another one that is not bad is damage to cursed enemies. That one is pretty good for the build as well. Still looking for critical hit chance above that. Next up, we're going to be taking the amulet for capped resistances because every one of our resistances is going to be capped. Now you might not get lucky and get this ring or get a item to get 6% cap to all resistances, and you might have 57 on your resistances instead until you can get that roll. But even at 57, so wave 10 of Exalted, I'm standing in front of Excelsius, man, and I'm fucking just using the siphon just to see if he can do more damage to me while I already have him weakened. If he can actually do more damage than I siphoned for right after his attack. He couldn't. 1v1, you are unstoppable, even on wave 10 of Exalted. That's how powerful this build is. Now, it's a straight tank build, does do moderate damage. It does great crowd control, curses enemies, weakens them, but overall, you're not going to instantly kill bosses. You can help and put stacks on them and wear them down, but you're not going to instantly kill them. That's not what this build is. So getting into this, what we want is critical hit chance. We do want critical hit chance in the build. Ideally, you want at least a double on your weapons or your star. You can also use one other item in here in place of this. I'll show you in a moment. But yes, we're looking for critical hit chance for your mastery because we have so much shield charge to begin with. I would take the banner charge speed. Same things you're really looking for. Rampage, bonus damage. Critical hit damage isn't terrible. Shield damage isn't terrible. But ideally, critical hit chance, weapon speed, regen, banner charge, rampage bonus damage, damage to cursed enemies, void damage. Those are the top perks that you're looking for. Moving on to our charm, we have Methra's Star. We're going for weakness and weapon tech regen. Same secondaries as all the other items. In place of this, you could use the Lion's Talisman, hopefully primal, and you have a good roll. The high roll, you can get 4% weapon technique charge and like 54-ish weapon technique charge speed per 5 seconds, which really does ramp up the build. Because this build is all throwing the shield, making it explode, and then going in with the southern, doing that 1 to 3 times, going back to the shield. It's spamming your siphon again to keep your Arcane Fury up. When we were doing the Exalted run on my test run, almost every single room, I started with my Arcane Fury in the beginning of the elevator of the room. My Arcane Fury never ran out. There was like 2-3 out of the 20 fights that I wasn't able to keep the Arcane Fury going the entire round, just by occasionally siphoning in between attacks. Just wanted to throw that in there real quick. Now this gain 21, or it's going to be somewhere between 19 and 23, I think, depending on the roll you get, over health for every 1,000 consumed. Now we're not going to consume a hell of a lot of damage unless we do like 3 southern attacks and then consume. But we're going to be consuming a lot of mobs because we're always going to have our shield. We're going to be throwing that shield and consuming so often that does help out a lot. Like most times, even with I think right now this build has 55-ish health. Yeah, 54-48. Even at like no overhealth, if you're on Exalted and you got the elevator and you throw your shield and you make it explode, you're back up to full overhealth. So this does help out a little bit in getting you to that point, because this is a tank build, and if you get hit really hard, it's really nice to just jump back up to full overhealth so you can get going again. And there's not too many other rings you could use. You could use the Void Ring, which isn't terrible for the build. Not too many other rings are going to benefit the way you should be playing this build as much as the overhealth for every 1,000 consuming, because you're constantly consuming with your shield blast. Now this isn't a bad roll. We'd be looking for ailment power. We want ideally every resistance capped, so you're going to have to work it out between your skill tree for the bonus 5% and your resistances. You should have enough. I'll show you the augments where you can make one augment not have the resistance. I was not able to do that because I got the +6 cap, so I had to make them all. I think I might have one that doesn't. But you want all your resistances capped, so you get the max amount of shield charge and shield gain. We're going to be running Eye of the Dragon for the overhealth and the overhealth retention. Because we're basically always going to have our Arcane Fury going, we want to keep our overhealth up high. We don't really need it going down. This build also should have roughly 175 to 225 overhealth gain in the build. So we're going to be looking for overhealth gain on a lot of our vitality pieces. Earth resistance is not important at all. I've already rerolled this like 15 times. I can't get a good roll without the earth resistance in it. Now we're going to be taking Archon's Tear for our life stone, and you might be wondering why not take the Arcane Fury charge speed and damage. Well, our siphon, if we siphon one enemy twice, we get our full arcane charge. If we siphon 3 enemies or 2 enemies, we get a full arcane charge. By the time, if you actually get to the point where you lose your Arcane Fury and you have to pop a life stone, you get these effects for 10 seconds. By the time you've actually siphoned back up your Arcane Fury, you're not going to get the bonus of the damage. So instead, what we're going to take is a 100% crit chance, so we can just throw our shield and every hit is a critical hit, giving us more overhealth. Or we can use our Southern and every hit is a guaranteed hit, plus we be getting bonus critical damage. We're looking for things like ailment power, ailment duration, void damage, all the same ones. Weapon technique damage isn't terrible. This is not really an ideal roll for the build, but I mean, it's okay. With this build, you almost never use a life stone. The entire Exalted run, I did not use one life stone. Oh, well, I revived people. Didn't actually use it on myself. Next up, we're not going to be taking the shield charge and weapon technique and Arcane Fury charge because we have weapon technique charge in the build. We even have more. Our Arcane Fury we're going to get by siphoning, so we're going to go for damage with our banner. What you want, obviously, is all the same stuff. Ailment power, ailment duration, rampage, bonus damage, because you can get your rampage so quick. Moving on to the augments. we have 100% of your void damage bonus also increases your curse duration. Now you're not going to be going crazy with adding void damage, but if you don't get this +6 cap, you should be able to add about 75 in void damage, and that will add 75 to the duration as well. As you can see, this is a pretty good ratio right here. 200 power, 163 duration. I'll get a little bit more into the stats in a moment. I covered most, but I'll get back to that. Next up, we're going to be taking Rift. You want overhealth gain and resistance. Next up, this is a very hard roll to get. Ideally, what you want is the weapon technique charge speed on a critical hit. Your second primary could be power, could be weapon technique charge on weak point, could be extra overhealth on critical hit. The one you're really looking for is the weapon technique charge on a critical hit. Our shield throws can get weak point hits. So ideally, the God roll, I think, is this roll right here, or the weapon technique charge and even more health on the critical hit. So you gain even more health when you use your Southern technique if you are low on your overhealth. Same secondaries as before, there's nothing new here. This one just happened to have the double weapon technique, and this is a very hard roll to get, my only roll that I got on it. So I took that. Next up, we have while over 50 overhealth, which we're going to be at basically all the time, our attacks are not going to be interrupted. Same secondaries as all the other vitality pieces. Next up, you have one or two choices. You either have shield charge gain whenever you defeat an enemy, or shield charge gain whenever you defeat an enemy with the weapon technique, and you gain bonus damage on your next shield throw. But that doesn't affect the explosion, and we have very low damage on our actual shield throw. So I would recommend taking the shield charge when we defeat an enemy, because we defeat a lot of enemies that aren't with the weapon technique, way more than a 2-to-1 ratio. So you'll get more of a shield charge on this one than the other one. Next up, we're going to be taking Glamour for ailment power. Well, like I said, you want roughly 175 to 225% overhealth gain. So once you reach the point that you're comfortable at in that range, then you should make your other vitality pieces power, which is what I did right here. And I got the double on the power, a decent roll on duration, and the resistance because I needed that towards the cap. Next up, we want a high roll on our critical hit overhealth. Now, I believe actually 107 might be the max. Definitely want a 95 plus. And same thing as before, we're looking for ailment power. And now the God roll right here would have actually been a double void damage and another void damage. We would have actually really liked to see a triple void damage. I'm probably actually going to re-roll that for a triple void damage, but it was a 107 and I took it. It's a pretty good one right there. You can take Vitality or you can take Might if you happen to not get good masteries for either damage to cursed enemies or void damage. Next up, we have the Lion's Pride. Same thing, overhealth gain, damage to resistance, or if you've already maxed those out, you'll be taking the power. And same thing right here. This is the high-end adjacent augments grant an additional 80. It can go from anywhere to 65 to 80, but if you can get a decent roll on the 80, that's another couple hundred to your health and another couple hundred to your overhealth. So you can go get like 600 more health if you can go get a good 80 right here. And that's what I did. It happened to have the 24 on the duration. I would have liked to double the power, but it was 24 on the ailment duration. And for the higher end bosses, you are going to spam your Southern a couple of times after you do a shield throw to do massive damage, and then throw the shield throw again and repeat the process if they're not already dead. So that ailment duration is almost as good as the power. So I took the higher value on that. Not 100% sure if that was the best decision, since I have so much. Well, I don't really have that much duration. They only put me at 150. So yeah, for my current stats, that actually was the right move. For the shards, we're going to be running the middle two right here. for Siphon and our shield throws. For our skill tree, we're going to be taking all the weapon techniques for the charge speed and damage, might for the damage. We can't do much with Rampage or Polarity, but we do want the 1 in Polarity because both our weapons give us the ability to use Polarity attacks and inflict ailments. So occasionally, when we do get a bunch of group of enemies in front of us and we don't have our shield to throw, then we can pop the Polarity, curse all of them, and then go in on them. We're going to be taking a little bit in Rampage just to be able to get Rampage and the bonus, because we do get Rampage very quickly. We just don't really need the duration and we don't need the charge speed, and we'd have to spend 3 points just to get to the 10% bonus damage, which isn't multiplicative and only goes to the initial 10 with no other things in the build ramping up the damage of Rampage. So we're just going to put the 2 in over there. You could even put 1 there and go 1 in Sundering Slam if you want. Definitely need all the siphons, need all the critical hit damages. You could leave off the last one, but I wouldn't recommend it if you wanted to double up the Sundering Slam. All the Arcane Furies, all the critical hit chance, all the vitalities. We're not shield bashing and spinning blasting to consume ailments, so we don't need that one. Definitely all stats, all recovery, so if we do get hit, and this also increases the rate at which we heal our teammates, I believe, because we're recovering more, so they should be recovering as more as well. That is just a theory. I don't know 100% sure if that is accurate. You're going to be taking levels 1 through 4 on the resistance, and if you can take level 5 and still max out all your resistances at the moment, then you'll be taking the +5 cap to all resistances. Take all spirits, take all banners. Definitely need the explosive shield throw. We do want the ability to hit weak points. We do not need extra damage, so we're just going to take 1, and we'll take 1 in finesse. You can also move 1 down from Rampage and place that in finesse if you are a fan of the properly timed get up. It's nice. I rarely get down. I go for cursed enemies. I have very high cursed resistance, so for this build it's not that big of a deal. So I went with the extra charge speed on the Rampage, but that's really not needed either, so it really is either or. Moving on to the Ascension powers, we don't parry in the build, so we'll take the evade window as longer. We don't need Rampage charge speed because we ramp it up so quick with our Southern and throwing our shield, so we'll take the longer window. We'll take more damage on ailments. We never really use our Lifestone, but if we do, shit is real hairy, so give more damage to our teammates. We can always just siphon a nearby enemy and give them way more than 20% recovery anyway, which is what we're going to be doing right after we throw our shield and get our overhealth back anyway, or we might just go right into the siphon to heal our teammates. So either or, don't need that one right there. Going to improve the power of our blessings. Shield charge, as long as you're getting your shield back immediately, pretty much, or very close to it after using, well, either immediately or after using your Southern immediately. You don't need shield charge, so I'll take the shield damage. If you are struggling a little bit to keep your shield up, and it's coming like really close after getting a nice grouping, then put the shield charge speed just to get it immediately back. It is real nice when you can throw your shield like 3 times in a row. Take the banner charge speed. You should be at the point where you don't need the banner overhealth. You should have a maxed out banner. We'll take the extra weapon technique damage. If you don't have a good roll for the secondary way to get up the weapon technique charge, you might want to go with the charge speed. Getting your shield back is more important than doing damage with the Southern. Placing the stacks is more important than doing damage with the Southern. So you want the technique as fast as possible. If you're struggling to keep it up, then go with the weapon technique charge speed. We're going to improve the marks by 20%. We're going to give our allies bonus damage while they're in our banner. Now, for this one right here, we're probably going to go with Polarity attack charge speed so we get it a little bit more frequently. could also do the bonus damage. I'm going to switch this one for this build. I didn't actually set this up for this build. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with the 10% polarity attack charge speed just to get it a little quicker so I can do more polarity attacks. And for the last one, it really is your choice because this is a very tanky build. You really could go with 10% more damage, but enemies deal 10% more damage to you. It is really hard to bring this dude down, this build, as long as you evade powerful attacks, siphon, throw your shield. If you move well, this build is ridiculously hard to bring down. One last thing to note on the build, you should have 50 plus crit hit chance. I think I said you want at least double on the charm, single over here. And the greater blessing of luck with the increased blessing will grant you 36 increased crit hit chance. So you should have 50 plus to begin with. And you're constantly inflicting ailments. So basically 100% of the time, you'll be at high 80s to 90% crit hit chance, which is pretty damn good, because then you'll always be proccing your weapon technique. And that is my endgame Exalted build for Moebius. Don't really see anybody playing it, but you are truly invincible with this build. Wave 10 on Exalted, standing in front of Excelsius, and I'm just sitting there. I was like, yo, wait a second, let him hit me a couple times. I want to see if he can actually break my Arcane Fury. I didn't let the dude stab me. I let him do his other attacks because the stab is just like ridiculous damage. But every one of his other attacks, he couldn't even do more damage than I could heal from. And I doubt that his stab attack would have done more than just break my Arcane Fury, if it even did that. Anyway, that is my endgame Moebius build. I hope that helps.